What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Pizza Buffet live here on the Forward Progress YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network, powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. Just 2 games remaining. Well, 3, I guess we count the Super Bowl. 2 today for Championship Sunday. I'm going to break them all down. Side total, player props. I'll answer any questions that we got over in the chat. I see a lot of familiar faces already. Good morning, Free88, Beat Gamer, Brian Davey, Brian Elfring, Trip C. Appreciate all you guys who are in here with me on Sunday morning. I'm excited for this one. Not from a pure betting perspective. So I'll always give like a little quick intro for the show, how I'm feeling about the card. Very hard for me to extract value this week. Part of that is just 2 games relative to like a larger schedule. Main markets, sides, and totals, kind of okay with the numbers. I'll still give my opinions on the game, what I would bet if I had to bet it. Even from a player props perspective, though, this week, I thought things were a little bit tighter. Typically speaking, you're kind of looking for maybe an injury or to some sort of skill position player that might change the handicap of a game a little bit more. But with Deebo Samuel expected to play now or going to play now, changes things a lot. So I'll get into it. I'll break it down top to bottom. Before I do want to remind everyone, Pinnacle, proud sponsor here of Forward Progress. I recommend anyone in Canada right now, check out Pinnacle Sportsbook, especially a day like today. You'll see over the course of the show, I'm going to be bringing up tons of odds on screen, and oftentimes Pinnacle is going to have the best price in market. So make sure that you're shopping around, and as part of that line shopping, make sure that Pinnacle is one of your sports books. Use code HAMMER in Canada to sign up, and does help support us here on Forward Progress. So please do so if you can. You must be 19 plus, not available in the US. And as always, please play responsibly. Second item of interest today, before I get into it, we have a little community set up over at www.thehammer.bet/the-nails. Once again, thehammer.bet/the-nails. If you want to be entered in a draw to win some Pinnacle swag or to win some betstamp swag, make sure you head over there. It's free to do so. Just have to follow the conditions on screen. Really easy to get into it. We've had hundreds entering the draws so far, so make sure you enter it for a chance to win some great gear. Everyone's always wanting those Pinnacle hoodies. This is your chance to get it. Also, while you're there, there's a little community section on the left-hand side of the screen. If you click on Forward Progress, put up a little pinned thread there. It works very similar to Reddit. You can up and down vote certain things, but I'm looking for feedback for next year on anything to do with this Forward Progress channel. Pizza Buffet specifically, our best bets our best bet show, our live watch-alongs. If you do consume the content here, I do appreciate your feedback. I'm a big believer in catering to the audience and being very receptive to what other people are saying about it. So anything on the table. If you think shows should be longer, say it. If you think shows should be shorter, say it. If you want more multi-hosted shows, more live watch-alongs, whatever it may be, anything that comes to mind, very receptive to feedback. So head over to thehammer.bet/the-nails. Give us some of that feedback. And of course, finally, before I get into it today, I'm going to break it down because that's what I do on game day. I'd like to share my final thoughts on everything. But of course, I mean, it's late in the year to be preaching this now. I've been preaching it all year. But do your best to bet earlier in the week whenever you can, right? The limits this week especially, they went from small to very large early in the week. Very efficient market. It's tough to find edges at this point. Not saying you can't. And I want to have a day too, Eric. I want to have a day. But make sure that you're trying to get down earlier in the week. And of course, as Matthew says, bet responsibly. I know there's only 3 NFL games left this year. Tendency is, you lose the 3:00 game today. Maybe you want to put more money on the 6:30 game. Maybe that's going to lead to putting more money on the Super Bowl. Don't do stuff like that. Betting is a long game. I understand everyone can get tilted, but play within your limits. Plain and simple. Play responsibly. And let's get into it. 2 games today. I'll bring up betstamp on screen here. As always, one of the best chances you have of succeeding as a bettor is to line shop, bet at different sports books. Use a tool like betstamp to find the best odds available at all times. You can check it out, betstamp.app, or download it on Android or iOS. KC Baltimore, our early game, 3 p.m. Eastern time today. So market has settled in here at 4.5 pretty much across the board. We got DK dealing 4 minus 112. That is, I believe off the top of my head, the same as minus 4.5 minus 106. So pretty much a 4.5 line as well. There's not a huge difference between these numbers. Total sat around 44.5 all week and kind of got bet down here to a key number of 44. I totally misread what the market was going to do with this game. I do pride myself on bet timing and figuring out where numbers are going to go. I didn't think we were going to get here. Now, there's been a couple contributors over the course of the week that have pushed us out here. One is the injury to left guard Joe Thuney on the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs, which is a big loss for them. Ultimately, though, I go back and I look at the Chiefs, first game of the playoffs, Dolphins. Chiefs caught a ton of money in that game. Last week against the Bills, not that the Chiefs caught a ton of money in that game, but the Bills didn't really get pushed out. So I didn't think that we were going to see a lot of market support here for the Ravens and that we would get pushed out to this number. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. I'm just saying that I called this one completely wrong. I thought we would settle kind of in the 3.25 range based off of the way that KC had been priced in the market in the past couple weeks. So complete whiff by me. Do I think the number is egregious by any stretch of the imagination? No. The issue that I have, I mean, we can break it down in full, right? We have the Baltimore offense. Start the Baltimore offense against the KC defense. And Baltimore has had these games this year where they have just been lights out offensively, right? I think back to the Detroit game earlier this year at home, Seattle at home. Even last week, the second half against the Houston Texans, where they were lights out in that second half of that game. But I'm not entirely convinced yet on the Ravens and on the offense. And some people might say, like, well, how could that be the case? We've played a full season. At some point or another, you got to look at the metrics, and that's it. And I agree. If you look at the Ravens metrics, sure, you're going to see a lot of top of the board numbers, success rate, DVOA, EPA per play, whatever metric you want to look at. But when you dig a little bit deeper, the Ravens had a very easy schedule of opposing defenses. And I can't knock them because of their schedule. Like, you play who you play. But there's been 4 games this year where they played a defense that finished the season as a top 13 EPA per play team. So 4 games this year where they played an above average to well above average, potentially elite defense, right? First game was back in week 4. They beat the Cleveland Browns 28-3. That was a game that Dorian Thompson-Robinson started for the Browns. The Ravens had 296 total yards of offense in that game. They had 2 long touchdown drives. Aside from that, their other 10 drives, they generated 106 total yards. Now, that's a tough one to read because they didn't really have to do much all game, and I don't want to knock them for being a little bit more conservative in that game, but we don't really learn anything from that. The following week, they play the Pittsburgh Steelers, a game that I remember vividly. The Steelers won the game 17-10. The Ravens defense played extremely well. Their offense just couldn't score to seal the game. Lamar Jackson went 22 of 38 in that game, didn't throw a touchdown, threw a late interception that cost them the game. The Ravens scored a touchdown and a field goal in their first 3 drives. And as I pull it up on screen here, they then went fumble, turnover on downs, punt, safety, punt, interception, fumble, turnover on downs. Couldn't really move the ball in that game. That was against the Steelers. Later in the year, actually, good point, Beat Gamer. There were some things that contributed to that as well. There was like Drop City in that game. Very frustrating to watch, though. Later in the year, they play the Browns again. Baltimore goes up very early in that game, 14-0. One of that touchdowns was a Kyle Hamilton pick 6. Then they have the scripted drive. They're up. After that, remainder of the game, they have 1 drive over 32 yards. They scored another touchdown late in the game on a muffed punt where they start at the Cleveland 12-yard line. Ultimately, they lose the game 33-31. The 31-point output, like I said, defensive touchdown, very short field position to start there. Then, finally, San Francisco 49ers. The game that everyone wants to talk about in case we get a Super Bowl rematch, right? And I think I've watched that game again this week. I think people totally misremember that game and specifically what happened in that game, which was Brock Purdy was a disaster. Okay. Now, I'm not saying the Baltimore offense didn't do anything. They were 5.4 yards per play. They were fine in the game. But that's final scoreline and the way that the Baltimore O played don't really match up. They scored 17 points off turnovers. They started those drives at the San Fran 20, the San Fran 44, the San Fran 9. They had short fields in that game. So what I'm getting at here is not that the Ravens offense is not good. It's just that we don't see them step up in class all too often. I really like the Kansas City defense. And particularly what I like is that they erase number one receivers for the most part and have done that all year. But Steve Spagnuolo plays a style of defense that causes some confusion, right? Typically speaking, when you look at defensive schemes across the league, you'll see that some teams play like 60% cover three, like cover three defense. You're going to get that a lot. I'm not including the second Ravens game because it's Tyler Huntley. There's no point in using the Tyler Huntley game as part of that. So just the Lamar Jackson starts. But Spags mixes it up a lot. Historically speaking, I'm not, again, think probabilistically. I'm not thinking in absolutes. I'm not saying this is going to happen or this is going to happen. Historically speaking, if you go through the games that Lamar Jackson has struggled mightily in his career, you'll often see that they were games where the opposing team really mixed up their coverages a lot and didn't play one form of defense for the entirety of the game. I'm very intrigued by this matchup. Now, one of the issues for Kansas City and could pose a problem in this game, regardless one way or another, is that they're not stout at defending the run. They're kind of like in a league average range. EPA-wise, near the bottom of the league. Success rate-wise, league average. And, you got Baltimore, a team that can move the ball on the ground with their quarterback in their running game. There's lots of different ways to beat you. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, like everyone seems to think, that Baltimore is going to score. Now, on the other side of things, the same concerns have to be brought up for Kansas City, right? Like, it's not just a one-way street. The Chiefs' offense this year was not very good. They were way more conservative. They don't have the explosive plays that they once did. I mean, their explosive play is Marquez Valdes-Scantling or the screen game. Like, they're most likely to generate a big play from running some sort of running back or wide receiver screen, which is sad for a Patrick Mahomes team. The likelihood that we are overrating the KC offense right now is probably high. They got Miami just like absolutely beat up in that game. Buffalo, big injuries in the linebacking core last week, which led to them being able to move the ball. Now you get a real defense. Baltimore's very good, with a very good defensive coordinator in Mike McDonald that's probably going to get hired in Seattle. They're very good at confusing quarterbacks. They can get pressure by rushing 4, which is huge when playing Patrick Mahomes. They blitz at 21.9%. That's a low blitz rate. Patrick Mahomes' EPA per play when he's facing 5 or more pass rushers this year is 0.16 EPA per play, which is solid. When facing 4 or less, it drops to 0.05. Now you don't have Joe Thuney on that offensive line in the interior. You're going to get Nick Allegretti at left guard. Allegretti, I would say like the PFF grades don't match what I think he's worth. At least this year, he hasn't played left guard, but last year he played on the interior a lot. He wasn't very good. This is a big matchup disadvantage for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Ravens on the interior there, Michael Pierce, Justin Madubuike, Broderick Washington, good interior. Going to be tough to move the ball. Now, I'm never going to write off Patrick Mahomes. I'll never do that in my life. I can't even tell you how many times I did that with Tom Brady. Looked like a complete garbage man and idiot for doing that. Kind of looked like a complete idiot with the... Actually, I like the camo hat. I'm going to rock some more camo going forwards. But it is a struggle to see KC being able to move the ball. If I bring back our odds screen here, take a real quick peek. If I had to play anything right now, I would just play KC money line. Like if you're looking for a sweat, that's where my sweat will be. I'm not suggesting that KC is going to win the game. I think that they're probably a little bit better than plus 187. I'm like closer in the plus 175 fair range. It's not a big edge by any stretch of the imagination, but I do see this. People often I like to talk about range of outcomes a lot, right? Like when you're playing a teaser game or you want to put a game into a teaser, I prefer games that have like a smaller range of outcomes. This to me, there's going to be like no surprising final score. Ravens could win the game 31-3. And I'm sure people, tomorrow will be like, oh, like, holy geez, they blew. Like that's within the range of outcomes. Baltimore's a very good team. They have blown out teams this year. They've won many games by large margin. That can happen. Is it going to shock me if KC goes on the road and wins at Baltimore? No. But in order for that to happen, I don't see this being a game where Kansas City goes out and wins, 35-31 on the road or something. I think it will be more of a grind out affair. My personal opinion on that, where they win a game like 20-17. Baltimore can't get their offense going. It's not the juggernaut that we expect it to be. That's what my original thought is for this game. How does KC defend mobile QBs? Well, I mean, they had the game plan in place last week until Willie Gay got hurt. Willie Gay is expected to play today. He likely will serve as a spy on Lamar Jackson. They've run this type of defense quite a bit over the years, especially in the games against Josh Allen. I'm not going to say that they're the best team at defending mobile quarterbacks, but it will be of paramount importance today for them to keep Lamar Jackson's rushing in check. I'm really interested in this game, honestly. I just hope it's a good football game. I think the market maybe is a little bit gone too far on Baltimore, but there's lots of reasons that I could be underrating the Ravens. Sometimes you just play like a certain schedule over the course of the year. And I mean, there's not really a lot of great teams in the NFL, so you can't fault Baltimore for the schedule that they played. But it is what it is. Interesting game. From a props perspective for Kansas City and Baltimore, lots of different ways you can play it. So, dead mouse at the worst possible time. See if I could get this plugged in here, or else it's going to be, we're going to have a real issue. Real issue. Want to see Rob Pizzola rattled on the fly, trying to figure out some tech problems. Wireless, people. I miss the day. I don't miss the days of Wired. Let's be completely honest. I don't miss the days of Wired whatsoever. Let's see if I could get this mouse back and going. Let's see if we can get this back and going. All right. Should be back in business here in a second. All right, we are. God, this damn wireless stuff really will get you the worst possible times. Look, I don't even know if I can take that comment off screen. I can't. The Zay Flowers receiving yardage is pretty damn low right now. And again, that's the propensity for KC to erase number one receivers. I think we're in the 44.5 range. There is a book dealing under 44.5 at plus 100, pretty widely available. And, I'm not much of a top down bettor, but especially on days like today, where you got a million books offering player props, the margins are very important here to pay attention to, right? So I don't hate that in terms of Zay Flowers in the under, provided that you're going to get plus money on that under. Same deal for McCole Hardman, which like McCole Hardman, I don't even know what the hell's going on with him anymore. His receiving yardage is pretty low, but you get some numbers out here for those who are in Canada, would be score bet, but ESPN in the US at 12.5 minus 110, like significantly off market prices. Scoop those up. I mean, in the long run, you're almost certainly going to win by grabbing a game day price that's that far off of market. Don't really like the Kelsey receiving yardage over that a lot of people are on today. Depending on where you're shopping, he's in like the 61.5 to 63.5 range. The problem is he's coming off the back-to-back games against decimated like linebacking cores where he could get open over the middle of the field. I'm not sure that I want to go that route with Travis Kelce like a lot of people have been going today. So that's that in terms of that specific game. See what else I got going on here. See if I could find a touchdown prop for the first game here. Just like really random one here. That's probably not going to win. I give a lot of these out on the live watch alongs that we do pretty regularly here on Forward Progress. I don't promote these winners maybe as well as I should, but we hit, like 4 winners of over 50-1 in the first touchdown market this year. For this specific game, there's one price out here right now on Dalvin Cook that is way off market, which, I mean, you can get him in the 60 to 70-1 range right now. I would take a flyer on that. Now, the last time we saw Dalvin Cook, he was coming in the fourth quarter. I think he got 6 snaps. If that's the type of game it's going to be, you're kind of pissing your money away. This is the playoffs. The correlation between the snap counts in the regular season and the usage in the regular season and the way players are used in the playoffs drops off pretty significantly. I would not be surprised if they utilize him in the red zone. This is just guesswork, by the way, like complete and utter guesswork, as is a lot of this stuff on a weekly basis, especially if you've been reading like the beat reporter news this year. But I don't mind that in the first touchdown option. There's also the possibility of a low scoring game. People completely forget about that, where you don't get a touchdown until later on in the game. Doesn't mean it has to come in the first quarter. At that price, I have no issue. I know I see Beat Gamer here. Hill and Edwards are obviously they are, but like it's relative to price. Everything is relative to price. So like best price available here on Justice Hill first TD is what? 17-1. I price him at 21-1 there. So I don't really like that one. And then Gus Edwards, best price available is 8-1. And I price him at plus 850. So I don't really have an edge there. It's all just relative to the market. And I think that market play on Dalvin Cook at that price is not a bad one. Same deal for KC, like Richie James, right? Like he's completely fallen out of favor. If I bring up his odds on screen, right? He's going to probably be priced here in the 60. Yeah, we got some 66-1s at Canby. Another 66-1 widely available. Like Richie James is not getting a ton of snaps by any stretch of the imagination. Roughly, like, let me go back to last week. 15 last week, 16 in the Miami game, but essentially he's on the field for 20 to 30% of the snaps on offense for the Chiefs, and he's getting priced in this 66-1 range. I think Richie James fair value on first TD is 54-1. This is not a big edge by any stretch of the imagination. It's like 0.5%, nothing. But in a market, especially like the first touchdown one, where let's just say there's a lot of hold in these, you really want to find the prices that stand out in these types of markets. So that's kind of the routes that I would go. Look for like an extreme long shot. I don't think you're getting anyone really at the top of the board here that's providing enough value for you to hit that type of bet. The touchdown market is a little bit different altogether. It's not like the exact same prices. Their sports books treat them as an independent market one way or another. There's an Isaiah Pacheco plus 140 out there. Not the worst. Although, like, I kind of thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been underpriced in the TD market the past few weeks at like 8-1. The difference is this game in particular, the Chiefs are underdogs. I could see them getting CEH involved a little bit more in the passing game if they end up going down a lot and getting away from just running Pacheco up the middle. So pretty interesting game altogether. Likely TD. This one's interesting because of Mark Andrews, and we have no idea what Mark Andrews is going to be, what his snap count is going to look like, if they're going to, throw him in there completely. For me, I price Isaiah likely to score a touchdown today at plus 352. If anyone wanted to bet a likely touchdown, you're looking for something that's higher than plus 352. And for Mark Andrews, I price it at plus 252. That's guesswork for me in terms of the snap counts and how they're going to look. But that's that. This is an interesting one. Patrick Ricard, first TD. Haven't heard that one thrown out in a while. That was a pretty popular one early on in the year. Again, I'll give my fair price on it, and then you can go from there in terms of deciding whether or not you want to go out and bet it or whatever. I'm not going to have value on Patrick Ricard first TD. I make him plus 15,159. Fair price. Tough market, people to bet into. I love to bet these markets. Don't get me wrong. It's like the most exciting first TD anytime. You're kind of like always in play for something, especially at the anytime TD. But the VIG is just so harsh on them that you really have to scale it back and say, like, this is my number. If I can get better than that, I'm going to get better than that. I'll move on to the second game. You know what? It's funny that he says it like this is a joke. Damn, I had him plus 50. There is a plus 15,000 out there. It's like you basically be coin flipping at that price. I was wondering who Chernoff put out as I didn't read that article. I was going to get around to it. Chernoff's deep bet of Debo Super Bowl. I'd have to price this out. It's too much for me to handle off the top of my head, but it's a good transition into the second game here. I will recap at the end here. Take any more questions that anyone has after I cover San Fran, Detroit. If you want my prices on anything, totally fine to go and do that. But do me one favor. We got almost 300 watching live in real time right now. I know a lot of people are going to watch this back after the fact as well. Really quickly, smash that like button down below. We're only at 60 likes in real time right now. Really want YouTube to promo this up until 3 o'clock over the course of the day. So just do me one favor, smash that like button down below. And if this is your first time here, the first time you found us here at Forward Progress, make sure you sub to our channel as well. We got tons of great content here on Forward Progress. When the season's over, we're going to be getting into a lot of NFL draft stuff, a lot of off-season coverage in terms of coaching, free agency, So make sure that you're subbed here on Forward Progress. Thank you to everyone who does support us here on the Forward Progress channel. Detroit, San Fran, the late game today. Let's get these odds up in real time here. Take a quick sip of coffee. Ooh, got the loading issue. There we go. Okay, market is out to 7.5. And the total above the key number of 51 at 51.5. I'll talk this game through. For those of you who watched the Best Bets show on Thursday of this past week, I went for a game prop. I gave San Fran's team total over. And I still like it at these prices. Hasn't really moved a ton, just like a little smidge. But the most confident thing for me in this game, or my most confident feels that San Fran will score points. I'll get into that in 1 second. I do see more questions about the Ravens-Chiefs game. Promise I will get to those at the end as well. I'm just going to star them as I go along, and I'll recap them at the end. Is this a desktop version of Betstamp? It is. Betstamp.app if you want to check it out. Okay. This game in particular, might as well start with the San Fran offense, since that's what I feel, strongly about, is San Fran getting points or like scoring points today. I believe that last week's performance against Green Bay was an anomaly for the 49ers, with Debo getting hurt early on in the game, but also with the weather conditions. The issue in the NFL is, like, sometimes we have to formulate opinions on small sets of data. We don't have a lot of examples of Brock Purdy playing in bad rain. He doesn't play enough games for us to have a large sample on that, but we've seen it twice this year now. One was a Cleveland game, was horrible in that game, and Green Bay last week, where he wasn't great either. We have a large sample of this 49ers offense being extremely efficient. Now, the Lions defense is healthier than it's been in a while, right? Because they got Gardner Johnson back a couple weeks ago. They got Ali McNeil back on the defensive line. Big body, big presence. However, I don't like this defense at all. And I think that they are ripe for the picking, and that recent performances by the Lions defenses in terms of generating turnovers are really skewing the fact that this is a bad defense overall. This happened to the Broncos like middle of the season, where they were just generating like an obscene amount of turnovers and winning games. And that's going to happen. But like, then you just pick up on the fact that they're generating 3 turnovers a game. How long, like, this can't continue, and the wheels fell off. And I kind of think that's coming for the Detroit defense, and this might be the spot for them today. Particularly when you look at down the stretch this year, they were giving up very high early down pass success rates and EPA. And early down is first and second. And the reason that that's important is that it's more predictive than like the late down stuff, the third and fourth down, high leverage type of downs. Tampa Bay last week, 44% success rate, early down passing. Not the greatest in the world, 0.09 early down passing EPA. Prior week, Matt Stafford, 55% success rate. Prior week, Nick Mullins, 49% success rate, 0.28 early down passing EPA. Dak Prescott the week before, 48%. Nick Mullins again the week before, 50% early down passing success rate. Even Russell Wilson was 46% early down passing success rate. To me, this is a big problem, because if the 49ers are consistently picking up yardage on early downs, they're just going to move the ball at will. You want to force this 49ers team into third and longs. I don't think Detroit is super capable of being able to do that. On top of that, the Detroit defense missed 124 tackles this season. There's only 4 teams worse at tackling: Carolina, Houston, Seattle, Jacksonville. So 5th worst in the league in terms of missed tackles. San Francisco's offense averaged 6.6 yards after completion this year, the highest in the league. This is not the way to beat San Fran. You got to make your first tackle. When you get the 49ers in open field, it's over. So I do think that there's a lot of explosive plays to be had here. Detroit might opt to play too high a lot and just take that big play out, but you're going to get a lot of crossers underneath. You're going to get Christian McCaffrey in the screen game. I really like the opportunity for the 49ers to move the ball in this game. That's what I feel the most confident about. I mean, listen, it's possible Purdy just can't handle the pressure, shits the bed. I mean, that's within the range of possibilities here. But I do like the matchup quite a bit. On the other side, I'm repeating a lot of stuff that's been mentioned this week, but some of you, it's the first time, and I'll try to apply a little bit more context as well. Jared Goff passes to the middle of the field a lot. And by a lot, the highest rate of any quarterback in the NFL. That's his bread and butter. His percentage of outside pass attempts is 38.6%. That's the lowest mark in the league. When you think of the 49ers and how to beat the defense, you beat them on the outside. Their EPA per play at defending the middle of the field is tops in the league by a nautical mile. Like way, way above the second best team. That's because they have very, very good middle linebacker play. The interior of the defense is good. They can get a pass rush going. And then typically you beat that by getting the ball out quickly to the outside. The Lions don't do that a lot. Now, what makes this an interesting handicap is Ben Johnson, very sound offensive mind, offensive coordinator. Do you change the strategy a little bit here? Do you attack more on the outside? And they probably will try to do that, but I'm actually not 100% sure that Goff is capable of doing that. Like, that's not who Jared Goff is. And if you break down his games one by one over the course of the last several seasons, and you start to look at the games where he had the highest pass rates to the outside, it's pretty highly correlated with lower offensive metrics across the board. It's just not the quarterback he is. He doesn't have the greatest arm, the greatest zip, doesn't see the outside of the field all that well. So I think that's a really interesting matchup today. But based off the way that San Fran has defended that this year so much better than everyone else, I think that there's a recipe for disaster for Detroit. So stylistically, I don't like the matchup for the Lions. However, there is the possibility that they have a lot of success on the ground in this game. The 49ers defensive metrics are a little bit misleading. They're not a great defense, at least relative to the past 49ers defenses. Their EPA per play defending the run is 26th in the league. Success rate is 24th. This is not a good rush defense. For context, though, you have to remember that they were missing interior linemen late in the year. Eric Armstead missed some time. Javon Hargrave, Javon Kinlaw. It was a beat-up interior defense late in the year. Now, those guys are not great run stoppers, but you take starters off the field, and that's going to happen. And they started to get burned a little bit more in the middle of the field. This, to me, is like, I'm going to be watching this game intently. And live betting-wise, the rest of the guys will be on air with you tonight here on Forward Progress. G-Stack George, Jeff Feinberg, Eric Eager, Alex Moretto. That crew will be doing the live watch-along for the 6:30 Eastern time game tonight. But in terms of live betting this one, if Detroit can't run the ball in the early going, I think there's going to be big problems in this game. I really do think there's going to be big problems in this game. I love people who are playing the first care. I don't have a way of running this easily. Christian McCaffrey over 3.5 first carry. No idea. This is a good, interesting. So Detroit took the ball last week, similar to the way that Green Bay did against San Fran. That, to me, I talked to Hitman a little bit about this. It's a little bit more reflected in the lines this week than it was previously. So the angle here would be that you just take derivatives of Detroit early in the game. Detroit first quarter, Detroit to score first, Detroit first touchdown scores, and then you take derivatives of San Francisco in the second half, San Francisco spread, whatever. It's a little bit more reflective of reflected in this week's line. Interesting matchup for me altogether. I do feel San Fran's going to win this game. I don't ever want to write off a team in the NFL, and I will never be surprised if a team wins in the NFL. I just stylistically don't like the matchup for the Lions all too much here, especially with their defense. I think the Lions need to win the turnover battle again, maybe by one or two turnover, maybe by multiple turnovers to win this game. It can happen. They've done it a lot this year. Where am I going to be tonight for the watch along? It's a tradition for me and my closest group of friends that I grew up with to watch Championship Sunday together. I never miss that day for anything. Well, I mean, there's like very, very few examples. I don't want to think of what those are. But Championship Sunday with the friends, I'm going to be consuming a lot of food, consuming a lot of liquor, watching some football like we were kids again. So that's my plan for today and will be every year going forwards. But again, Forward Progress Live watch along tonight, 6:30 Eastern time. The crew did it last year and I watched it back and it was hilarious. So I don't think they're going to miss a beat whatsoever. You can go for that. Okay. Other questions I'll get to, and then I'll get the props for this game. Do you like KC +4 -108? Or, let's just run this really quickly. It just really comes down to what is the better price. And I can't do this off the top of my head. So I'm just going to input these really quickly. But they're pretty much the exact same price. Very, very close to the exact same price. So, I mean, really, it doesn't matter. My personal preference would typically speaking would be to take the lower VIG when they're the exact same price, but to each their own. So I'd play the 4 -108 if that's what you want to go down. For the other game, how about Aguilar TD / first TD? Nelson Aguilar, who's been on the field a lot, like getting more snaps than Odell Beckham. First TD, I think his price should be roughly +3,500. And for anytime TD, +743 on Nelson Aguilar for those who want to bet that specific prop for this game and props. Let's get into it. See what we got up on the board here as I pull up Betstamp and see what players I think are deserving of some targets altogether. Reset my props board screen. Okay. Let's start with Michael Badgley, who is the kicker for the Detroit Lions. Now, the conversions on kicking points are a little bit interesting. So we got a lot of 5.5s in market, and we have this 6.5 with the under at -134. I like this prop at the more heavily juiced 6.5. I don't see this as a game where Dan Campbell is dying to kick field. Already the guy wants to go for it on 1,000,000 4th downs. But the likelihood that Detroit is going to have to score touchdowns instead of field goals in this game, in my opinion, is high. I think that this one is a little bit mispriced based off of the propensity for Detroit to want to go for two. Not only like over the course of the year, but in this game in particular, where I think that like really, really, they're going to want to do whatever they can to get those TDs. So that's the first place I would look. Kicking points for Michael Badgley. There are made field goal props as well, but the under, like I looked at those yesterday. I'll pull it up here. Yeah, the unders are like extremely heavily juiced here. So I'd rather just turn my attention to kicking points. If you don't have the 6.5 available, I don't mind these 5.5s +100, but this is one of the rare times that I would consider paying up for the 6.5 for that like peace of mind. Similar in terms of game state. Let's go to Jahmyr Gibbs here for 1 second. Right. And what I like to do is try to like tell a story in my head. A lot of this is reflected in the numbers that I simulate as well. But Jahmyr Gibbs long rush, again, you have one off-market price at 16.5. Be smart when you're betting today, people. You don't have to bet at one book. I mean, in fact, I would encourage you not to do that. But of course, Jahmyr Gibbs can break a 16.5, 17-yard rush against the 49ers defense, who isn't the best run-stopping D. But if we look at Gibbs pretty regularly, let me just pull up his game log really quickly here. I had it in front of me a second ago. I mean, last week, 9 carries. The week before, 8 carries. 13, 15, 15. He's basically going to top out at 15 carries. And a lot of these 15-carry games are games where they're leading from wire to wire. This is a game where they might be trailing from wire to wire. So now your opportunity to get this long rush diminishes a lot, right? Not that he can't break one, but like I think with the opportunity, you drop that down. In the same vein, right? Like if you, again, just applying logic. And again, a lot of this logic for me, people, is built off of the fact that I think San Francisco is going to win this game. And I think that they're slightly more likely to cover the spread. But if you go like David Montgomery, rushing and receiving yards, right? What's going to happen in a game where San Fran is scoring at will? The likelihood that Montgomery is going to keep seeing the field instead of Gibbs, who's like the more explosive guy, is low. So I think this number is a little bit too high across the board. 54.5 everywhere in market. I think that's a good spot to go. So like you kind of manufacture the story. You manufacture the story based off of what you like in the game. It's a little dangerous. You don't want to go overboard with it and tie all your things to one outcome. But I like that in terms of specific props. Suma made a great point on forward progress this week. I don't disagree, other than that, like Jamison Williams, right? Let me see what he's at receiving yardage wise now. So he's got bet up because Suma gave him out 28.5 at like even money. He's now up to 29.5. Not a big difference, obviously, but like the 1 yard could matter. But the argument being that Detroit is going to be targeting more of the outside of the field, and he's the most likely guy to receive one of those targets on the outside of the field. I totally get that. Honestly, I'm into that. That logic, that style of thinking. Anything else here for this particular game? This one's an ugly one, but I kind of like it just based off of price. Pains me to do this, but Kyle Juszczyk hasn't really been involved in the passing game nearly as much as he was earlier on in the year. We've got several games now without targets. One of the worst bets you could possibly cheer for. One of the worst possible bets. But under halves in the minus 110 range, even some minus 105s out there, I don't think those are bad bets whatsoever. Good luck to you, my friend. Monster Bed 75. Okay, touchdown props for this game. Let me just pull up my numbers really quickly, see where I'm at for first TD, and then we can go from there. Again, tough to find value in this game, in particular because of like just the spread and the juice in the market. You know, I'm noticing Pacheco in the other game has a plus 850 first TD out there. It's not terrible. Yeah, I'm really struggling with this one in particular. Really, really struggling with this one in particular. George Kittle 10-1 is kind of like on the cusp. But again, that doesn't play into, I mean, that actually is included in my sim, the likelihood that they don't get the ball first, which is high. I think it's a little bit more value to be found in the Baltimore KC game right now on the touchdown scorer market than there is in this 49ers and Lions game, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't see much here, honestly. I don't see much. If you're going like anytime touchdown, let's pull it up here. But as a long shot, Craig Reynolds, anytime there's 15-1s and higher out there, 17-1, 15-1. That's probably where I would put my attention to. Like Detroit's going to have to move it through the air. You get like your third string running back in there every now and then who has like a little bit more. It's ugly though. Like really ugly. He could see almost no snaps. It's within the range of possibility. Tough game for touchdowns here. I don't like this one as much. Yeah, it's really hard to bet anything this weekend. It is, but we march on. We march on. Jameson Williams first TD. Let's see what I got for a price on Jamo, as the young kids call him, for first TD. I say young kids like I'm the oldest person on planet Earth, but Jameson Williams first TD, I will not find an edge there. I make him roughly 41-1 first TD. So nothing in the market right there. Nothing in the market right there. Just to recap, thoughts overall. KC Baltimore, wide range of outcomes. If I had to bet anything in the game, I would just bet the Chiefs on the money line. I think that, I mean, the price is just like, it's just calling to me. Really. I think the Ravens are a very complete football team. Am I completely sold on them? No. I'm not. The other game, so like here's the question, right? Mark's like, teaser. What do you tease San Fran with? What do you tease San Fran with? That's the question. Because I don't like to tease totals. You get almost no value. You're not going through valuable numbers if you're teasing the totals. What do you tease Baltimore to like a 2.5 point under? No. Go through 0. That's like KC's your other option, but like KC could easily get blown out in the game. That's your best option of a teaser. San Fran KC. Is it within is it within the range of realm of possibility that the Chiefs get blown out? Yes, very much so. Right? Like Baltimore's kind of superior everywhere other than quarterback at this point. Although the defense is arguable as well. Like, at least they're in that league. I mean, Chiefs went to Denver this year and lost 24-9. It's within the realm of possibility. Okay, you know what? Like when we start to get to stuff like this, I don't mind at all, right? How to win. Chiefs -6.5 plus 600. I didn't price this particular line, but I don't hate stuff like that. Again, like people often think, oh, like how's that going to happen? There's no world in which that's going to happen. Injuries happen in games. Like you don't want to see that happen, but there's going to be a percentage of the time, especially the way Lamar Jackson gets played, that he gets hurt. There's a lot of stuff that happens there. That's like, so yeah. Yeah, like defense is arguable. Here's what I'm getting at. Like you're never going to know with certainty over the like a 18 game sample that one is Baltimore's defense is better than Kansas City's metric wise, right? Like without a doubt. KC's is like the next tier in my opinion, but you go through the season and like KC played relatively similar schedule in terms of opposing offensive ranks. There's not a ton separating the two. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Super Bowl line should be in the long range. Yeah, like if you can maybe do an open teaser, that works as well. I don't know. I don't do a ton of teaser plays anymore, so I can't tell you one way or another. But I just don't like pure rec bets for me today. Like I said, just so everyone is fully aware, I got some props on the go. Nothing that's like nothing crazy. I'll probably be betting the Chiefs on the money line, best price right before game time. Actually, probably just going to hit this. Well, there's plus 192 out there I can get right now. Some 196. Like, that's what I'm going to do for the early game. Just for a sweat. I think of all the numbers on the board right now, that's the best option. Second game, San Fran team total over. If you got to play anything at this point, that's the bet I'll be rooting for. It's the only bet I clicked prior to today that's of substantial value to me. And that's it. I don't price these markets either. but this follows like the storyline of so like I'm not huge same game parlay player or anything like that, but San Fran alternate spread with Elijah Mitchell last TD. I've seen worse bets in my life before. No sack bets that I like. I did see Roquan. Let me see what Roquan Smith's number was, but I do have value on Roquan Smith, I think, over tackles and assists. Let me just make sure that that's still true. Yeah, there's an 8.5 minus 105 out there on Roquan Smith, tackles and assists. I think that's a solid bet towards the over. That's the only defensive prop that I ended up playing today. Okay. What's the right number for the San Fran? So depending on where you bet this, you're going to get wildly different, like base numbers. So some books are at 28.5, juiced heavily to the over. Some are 29.5. Some are 30.5. Honestly, since the start of this show, Pinnacle's even moved to the over on the 28.5. If you have a 30.5, which is the most common number out there, I would play up to minus 120, and that's it. Do not go past that. That's the cutoff point. So 30.5 minus 120. And at that price, that's the like absolute worst number. You play that for a small amount. Any better price you can get, then you start increasing your bet size and so on and so forth. Okay. That's going to be it for me. As a reminder, smash that like button on your way out the door. Thank you to everyone who's done that already. Secondly, today, if you're sitting at home and you're going to be watching the games by yourself or with friends or whatever, and you want a live watch along companion, do it with the guys here from Forward Progress. G-Stack George, Alex Moretto, Eric Eager, Jeff Feinberg. All these guys are going to be around tonight, including producer Jason Sims as well behind the scene. So make sure you tune into the live watch along for the Lions and the 49ers. You will get instant reaction from the guys in terms of possible Super Bowl prices, early bets. They do a good job of it. So if you do enjoy the watch alongs, check that out. Secondly, you want a chance to win Pinnacle swag, head over to thehammer.bet/the nails. You can enter the draw for Pinnacle and betstamp swag. And also leave us some comments there on the Forward Progress community forum. Just let me know what we could do differently next year, or like keep things the same. Any feedback, positive, negative, I'll consume it all. And we're going to use that when we schedule our stuff for next year. This is like, tell us who you think will win, KC or Ravens. I think the Ravens will win. I think KC is a better bet than Baltimore. Those are conflicting, but they're not really conflicting, if you can understand that. Probabilistically, the Ravens should win. If I had to make a bet in the game, it's on Kansas City. Hope that is clear and people can understand that. For myself, Rob Pizzola, for my producer behind the scenes, Jason Cooper, this has been the second last pizza buffet of the season. I'll see you guys back here on Super Bowl Sunday for a pizza buffet as I break down the entire board, including props. Make sure you check out Pinnacle in Canada. Use code HAMMER to do so if you sign up. But most of all, everyone, enjoy the games today. Stay safe, bet responsibly, and I'll be back and see you guys here on Forward Progress this week. Peace out.